Will quantum computing destroy Bitcoin? Especially with news about Google Willow. I see this comment a lot. You post one thing about Bitcoin and you get a bunch of people in the comments, quantum computing is going to destroy that. Ha ha. Listen, I'm not saying I'm an expert in elliptic curve cryptography or anything, but I do know that usually when people mention quantum computing like that to just dismiss Bitcoin out of hand, they haven't thought about it for more than 10 seconds. Look, first of all, there's risk everywhere. Walking outside your house entails risk. Driving down the road, it's actually statistically the riskiest thing you can do. So I believe all these conversations need to be filtered through the lens of risk analysis, risk reward, and the alternative options. So we're talking about adopting Bitcoin as your store value, your savings account, an investment tool for you. I'm coming at it from a perspective of, is quantum computing enough of a risk that you should stay away from Bitcoin entirely? In other words, is the risk of quantum computing reasonable enough, and is it soon enough for you to forego something that has been the greatest investment return of all time over the last 16 years? Putting aside people's other arguments about Bitcoin here, I'm just saying, if you see past Bitcoin returns and you accept that there's any validity or possibility that that could continue in the future, should quantum computing be enough of a risk to scare you off? So again, I'm not trying to LARP as a quantum computing expert. I got a lot of this from Eric Yakes, who wrote The Seventh Property, and from Jimmy Song, who's a longtime Bitcoin developer. So there's no way to reverse engineer a private key from a public key. So what computers would have to do to try to hack a private key is brute force, which just means guessing as many times as it possibly can to get to some giant randomly generated prime number. Now, the set of numbers that it's guessing from is 2 to the 256th, which is the same as 10 to the 77th power. The estimated number of atoms in the universe is 10 to the 80th power. A trillion computers doing a trillion computations every trillionth of a second for a trillion years is still less than 10 to the 56th computations. Are you starting to understand the odds of what it would take to brute force crack a private key? So even if quantum computers become more powerful and are able to make more computations, it also naturally stands that we would most likely be able to come up with larger prime numbers and or potentially quantum resistant algorithms. The Bitcoin network or Bitcoin private keys can just upgrade. And here's the thing. My joke is usually that people saying quantum computing is going to destroy Bitcoin are people whose Chase bank account login is password 123. The point is they never bother to think, what else is quantum computing going to break if it can break SHA-256 and discrete log and RIPE-MD160? Basically, all these different cryptographic encryption algorithms would have to all get broken simultaneously and in secret for the purpose of somebody coming after your Bitcoin wallet. If that does happen, it also has the ability to break everything else you and basically anyone else on the internet uses a password for. So you're basically just saying, well, I trust Chase Bank to be on the lookout for this and upgrade their systems to protect me. And I trust that more than I trust the entire world and everybody who has a financial investment in Bitcoin and can monitor the open source software. Again, I'm not saying it's completely impossible. I'm saying everything has risk. And just dismissing Bitcoin by saying quantum computing is going to destroy it, the risk you're taking is missing out on the continued growth of what has been the greatest investment asset in history. Because we're getting to the point where holding Bitcoin is not the risk. Not holding Bitcoin is the risk. Because look at where we are today. We've come 16 years, and typically the way things work is the greater potential for reward, the greater the risk. So early Bitcoin adopters took on much greater risk, and they benefited disproportionately. But guess what? They took on the risk early, and now you don't have to. As Bitcoin adoption increases, regulatory landscape becomes a lot more clear, and a ton of the risk has been removed. Other people took the biggest risks for you. Look at the current administration's stance on crypto and Bitcoin. The biggest FUD for years was the government's going to ban it. The government's not banning it. So right now we're at an inflection point where the reward for adopting Bitcoin is still significant, but the risk is dramatically reduced. So what are the odds of quantum computing destroying or stealing your Bitcoin? What are the odds of you picking the right stock in the S&P 500? What are the odds that the total stock market continues its historical trajectory and you get to retire on index fund investing in 45 years? What are the odds of the purchasing power of the dollar trends towards zero? What are the odds that inflation goes down to 2% and stays there? What are the odds Social Security goes away? What are the odds that quantum computing does get discovered and it breaks your bank account first? Or it breaks all existing cryptographic algorithms and sends the whole digital world into chaos? So if you're stacking gold and bullets and canned food in your basement, I respect the quantum computing argument a lot more from you. But if you got like $100 in cash in your wallet and your entire net worth and your digital life all rests on the exact same cryptography that Bitcoin does, but you only think about the dangers of quantum computing when someone else mentions Bitcoin, you're not a critical thinker on the topic, and no one should take you seriously. And if that's your only reason for avoiding Bitcoin, sorry, but not gonna make it. Again, I'm not a technical genius, so put questions and comments in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share this with somebody else if you enjoyed it, and go study Bitcoin. I'm not saying I'm an expert in elliptic curve cryptography. And I'm not saying I'm an expert in elliptic curve elliptic curve cryptography. Try to say that 3 times fast.